Welcome back. Now, the cryptocurrency market didn't start December off on a merry note, I'm afraid. This was at the risk of off sentiment over digital assets continued. Bitcoin tumbled as well sharply at the start of the week, wiping out nearly $140 billion from the cryptocurrency market, while setting off forced liquidations of more than $350 million. The digital asset, however, has clawed back the losses, but sentiment around the market remains rather fragile. Blake Player, Chief Commercial Officer of a global cryptocurrency exchange, VALR.com, joins us. Blake, good to have you with us. Now, looking at what's happened with crypto, we all know it's seesaw. I mean, crypto from when it started was seesaw. But this seemed to happen or start in October with US President Donald Trump and tariffs. What happened after that?
Yeah, crypto is an interesting space, and it's moving very quickly. In October, there was a lot of volatility, some of the most volatility I think we've seen in many years, although definitely not the most that has ever happened in crypto. It all started around the 10th of October when there was rumors about tariffs and so on starting to enter into the market, and there was a mass liquidation cascade, which caused a huge turndown in the markets in a very short space of time, and billions and billions of dollars. I think upwards of $20 billion worth of liquidations happened in only a few hours, and this really caused a huge echo, I would say, over the next month as the market then, in a lower liquidity environment with a lot of large institutional players taking heavy hits, the market started to draw down. I think from about $100,000 all the way down to 80. As recently as a week or so ago, towards the end of November. So there was huge, I would say, losses being taken by the markets. Although by historical standards, Bitcoin's still trading relatively high. If you look at if you zoom out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Bitcoin going down to $20,000. Now, I mean, if it's below 90,000, it's a bit of a crisis. It seems to have stabilized a little bit in the long run, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about huge liquidation events and really big downward volatility here, and still we're only talking about a 30% drawdown. In 2016, 2017, if this had happened then, we would have been seeing 60-70% movements over the same time period. So there's definitely a lot more stability. I think that's been driven by a much bigger institutional participation in the market. So you have big players now who are making the market in this asset class. You have the ETFs that are providing a more consistent bid as people make regular allocations. You have large funds that are allocating, and this creates a bit of stability in the market. So even though it is a big drawdown, 30% is nothing to scoff at. It is definitely more stable than it has been in historic cycles.
But also don't sell now. I mean, if it's down, wait for it to come up. I mean, people do get a little bit edgy on things. What I am liking, Blake, is the fact that traders, talking about ETFs, those who are not doing Bitcoin or those who are not doing crypto, are actually watching crypto now for signs. It's become an indicator of the markets. And this is like the evolution of crypto. It's good to watch.
Yeah, I mean, crypto as an asset class, I would say has really been categorized as a risk-on asset. So it's, at the moment at least, it's certainly been a leading indicator of market concern or worry. So you tend to see crypto assets like Bitcoin, Solana, and so on starting to sell off sooner than other asset classes like equity. So it can be a bit of a leading indicator at time. And likewise, when crypto starts to rally, it might also start to indicate some reversal. So I think it is definitely a key indicator and signal to the market, particularly over weekends and public holidays when traditional markets are closed. Crypto markets trade 24/7, so it does give you information about sentiment in much more real time.
Yeah. All right, I've spoken about Bitcoin, but some of the others aren't doing so well. I mean, how are the others like Ethereum, the other coins doing? Are they bouncing back as well, or are you seeing some problem areas?
Yeah, the market tends to sort of be very correlated to Bitcoin, in the whole, obviously with nuances on specific assets. So everything is currently, I would say, performing roughly in line. If you look at the daily charts, the patterns are very similar between Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, and in fact, the altcoins, as they're called, tend to just on over a longish time frame act as a higher beta version of Bitcoin, and you tend to see more volatility, but generally in the same direction. So everything is sort of bouncing over the last few days, off of the recent lows. Bitcoin is now above 93. A few days ago, it was in the low 80s. So there has been quite a significant rally in the last week. And yeah, I think this has been consistent across the asset class.
Yeah. I hate when people ask me this question, is this set to continue? Because these are markets. But I'm going to ask you that question, is this set to continue? What are you seeing?
So I think that there's no one's got a crystal ball, and I certainly don't. But if you look at what are the factors driving the markets, for me, there are a few things that are at play here. At the highest macro level, you've got uncertainty around interest rate levels in the US and the trajectory of those. Sure. More specifically, I think we're talking about when is there going to be an interest rate cut, not so much if anymore, but and I think that's I would say optimism about a lower interest rate, higher liquidity environment as it relates to the Federal Reserve is boosting forecasts. You've also got quantitative tightening that has been ceased at the Federal Reserve, ending now in December, which, I mean, to make it simply, they're basically not they're not taking money out of the system as much as they were in the future as they were in the past.
So anything could happen.
So that's exactly right. So I think there's, at a macro level, there is potentially a boost coming from a liquidity perspective, but there's also some concerns in the market, right? And things that we aren't sure about. There's a lot of geopolitical tension at the moment, particularly between China and the US. You have Ukraine, the Middle East going on. There's certainly worries about inflation continuing to grow and increase. We've got slowing growth generally in the Northern Hemisphere.
It could continue and go on and go on. Blake, we'll have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Blake, thank you so much for talking all things cryptocurrency. I think we've all learned something today. Really do appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. That was Blake Player, Chief Commercial Officer of VALR.com.